But I'm not changing my message and pandering to anybody. I'm going to tell the truth. And look, 8 years ago when I was in this race and running against Donald Trump, there was nothing to say about him. He was the star of The Apprentice. He had built some buildings. He was a billionaire, had a beautiful wife. What were you going to say? I'm going to tell the truth. The best person to beat Hillary Clinton in November on that stage last night is undoubtedly Donald Trump. What were you going to say? He'll provide strong, unequivocal leadership. He will do what needs to be done to protect the American people, first and foremost, both in the homeland and in creating jobs for this country. And what the American people and our allies around the world are going to understand is that Donald Trump is someone who keeps his word, and that means America will keep its word again. You know, Donald Trump has cowed a lot of people, Becky, and, you know, people get upset about being called names in public. I'm from New Jersey. I get called names in public all the time. It doesn't matter. I'm used to it. I've known him for 22 years. I'm not afraid of him. He's a paper tiger. He's a good friend. He is a strong and resolute leader. He's a paper tiger. Strong and resolute leader. And he is someone who is going to lead the Republican Party to victory in November over Hillary Clinton, which is the one person that Hillary and Bill Clinton do not want to see on that stage come next September is Donald Trump.
One person who is not doing well is former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. Frankly, I'm getting a little sick and tired of hearing from him. He left office with a 14% approval rating. Now, by the way, he obviously is not connecting with Republican voters, maybe because he's not actually running for president at all. He's just on one long, the media suck-up tour bashing Donald Trump. Don't believe me?
What did it take? What was it with him that you thought, forget it, I'm not going to work with you anymore, support you anymore? It did help him.
Election night 2020. I was sitting on the set at ABC, and when he got out there and said at 2:30 in the morning, the election's been stolen.
We won states, and all of a sudden, I said, what happened to the election? It's off.
When I know that the votes weren't even all counted yet, he couldn't have had any idea that the election was stolen.
And all of a sudden, everything just stopped. This is a fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country. We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election.
I said, you can't stand as President of the United States in the East Room of the White House and say that to the American people. It undercuts their confidence in the democracy. We've seen what's happened.
So our goal now is to ensure the integrity for the good of this nation. This is a very big moment. This is a major fraud in our nation. We want the law to be used in a proper manner. We don't want them to find any ballots at 4 o'clock in the morning and add them to the list, okay? This is a very sad moment, and we will win this, and as far as I'm concerned, we already have won it.
He couldn't have had any idea that the election was stolen.
In no prior election has an incumbent president gained votes, over 10 million more of them this time for President Trump, and lost the election. The mainstream media says Joe Biden is now the president-elect. Operating under that assumption, it's a win despite losing the states and counties that typically predict the outcome of the election. Biden underperformed Hillary Clinton in every major metro area in the country, with the exceptions of Milwaukee, Detroit, Atlanta, and Philadelphia. In some cities, the number of votes exceeded the number of registered voters. Biden won despite Democratic losses everywhere else. 27 House seats ranked by the New York Times and Cook Political Report as toss-ups going into Election Day all appear to be won by Republicans. Biden miraculously beat the incumbent president who lifted numerous Republicans to victory. No incumbent president who has received 75% of the total primary vote has lost re-election. President Trump received a whopping 94% of the primary vote. And in 2020, President Trump made records in the primaries when more than 18 million Americans turned out to cast their ballot for 4 more years.
I said, you can't stand as President of the United States in the East Room of the White House and say that to the American people.
They cheated and they rigged our presidential election. If I lost, I'd be a very gracious loser. If I lost, I would say I lost. And I'd go to Florida and I'd take it easy and I'd go around and I'd say I did a good job. But you can't ever accept when they steal and rig and rob.
When I do make mistakes, when people who work for me do the same, that I must admit it.
That I had nothing to do with this, and as I said from the beginning, and this report has supported exactly what I said.
That I must take responsibility.
I had nothing to do with this, and
when you make mistakes, is to first accept that responsibility and ask for forgiveness.
I had nothing to do with this. And
coming out of that so-called Bridgegate scandal, a key witness for the prosecution is now claiming for the first time publicly that Christie was in fact aware of those lane closures that led to a massive traffic jam.
I had nothing to do with this.
That Chris Christie, the allegation is, as governor, knew that this was going on, knew that there was this revenge going on with the bridge closure to punish a Democratic mayor.
I had nothing to do with this. And
when you make mistakes, is to first accept that responsibility and ask for forgiveness. That's what character really is.
I had nothing to do with this. And
I'm running because he's let us down. He has let us down because he's unwilling. He's unwilling to take responsibility for any of the mistakes that were made, any of the faults that he has, and any of the things that he's done.
I had nothing to do with this.
Oh, it's the Democrats' fault. It's DOJ's fault. It's this person's fault. It's the media's fault. How about it's his?
I had nothing to do with this.
He hasn't won a damn thing since 2016. Three-time loser. 2018, we lost the House.
Two big Senate races in Tennessee and Indiana. Democrats were losing and losing big. Republican leads kept growing. And at 10 o'clock, both of those seats were called for the Republicans. At that point, the Democratic dreams of taking over the Senate pretty much ended. And Rick Scott, the Republican Senate candidate, held on to a very tiny lead. The idea of having historic victories in two of the biggest states in the country disappeared for Democrats.
Loser, loser, loser. Now we're getting going, it'll be different this time. Why? Why will it be different this time?
Chris Christie's polling is now up 150% since he announced he was running for president. However, this puts him at 2.5.
But I'm not changing my message and pandering to anybody. I'm going to tell the truth.
Chris Christie in this poll is at 1%, Tommy, 1%. And it seems all he wants to do is go on ABC, fake news, CNN, bash Trump, bash Trump, bash Trump, and then get in the debates in the hopes that he'd have another opportunity to bash Trump to aggrandize himself. Am I wrong?
So, listen, percentage-wise, things are going in the right direction for Chris Christie. The clearly the most sane and rational person running in the 2024 Republican primary.
He is indulgent. He likes to hear himself talk. He sucks all the air out of the room and everything else out of the room, you know, obviously. But again, Chris Christie is just doing this for himself. He's doing this because he likes to see himself and he likes to talk to CNN and MSNBC and all the liberal outlets that still hate Donald Trump. So they'll put anybody on that's going to bash Donald Trump. He's not a serious candidate. He's going to get no votes and no support. He wants to get on that debate stage, but I don't think it's going to happen for him.
I suspect that, you know, he'll suck up to his buddy Georgie Stephanopoulos and all those jackasses at Fake News CNN that lied to us for 3 years about a collusion hoax that never occurred, and take all the airtime he can. But he's not really running, is he?
No, I think there is an element of that here, and it's hard to convince me that the primary voters in the GOP have more appetite for Chris Christie than they did the last time he ran. I think his last candidacy is actually an argument against this one, because what he says this time is I know all the flaws that Donald Trump has, and I will prosecute this case. Well, he's giving
Mary
that
Catherine
a try,
Ham,
but here's hold on, he could have done that last time. And
okay.
He didn't.
And when he closed the beaches of New Jersey and then got himself a nice, comfortable beach chair and plopped it down and sat his ass down on that chair, I think that he has his own problems, and a lot of the adjectives he's using against Donald Trump, we could put right back on him.
Loser, loser, loser.
The guy left with a 14% approval rating in New Jersey. You really have to be awful to leave with that low an approval rating.
Yeah, he's almost as bad as Kamala Harris, so I think that's very interesting. You didn't know that they had that in common, but nobody likes Kamala, and no one likes Chris Christie. But let's be honest, every other contender, minus maybe a couple like Mike Pence, actually has a shot at being something within this movement, within this America First, GOP, resurgence, conservative movement. They all have a place. Chris Christie certainly does not. He's there for himself. He's indulgent, narcissistic. And again, this is all about Chris Christie, and they're putting him on TV because he's willing to bash Trump, and that's really the extent of it.
The way I'll make a decision about whether to seek any future office would be, do I think it's what's best for me and my family? And secondly, do I believe that I have something unique and particular to offer that particular office at that particular time?